Hello fellow map makers, welcome to another live map making session. Hope you're all doing fine, healthy and eager to create some more maps, and we'll see what we can come up with tonight. Tonight's topic came up through one of my own gaming sessions that I had not too long ago. Science fiction campaign I'm running, and hacking and computers is a pretty important topic in that setting, and it's useful for that to have it's a battle map for computer space, basically, where you have different computer systems highlighted, connections between them with information on the game system. So the players have something to look at and plan their actions and stuff. And I came up with a version of that in Campaign Cartographer, inspired by the matching maps in the game system. And I thought I'd share the process with you, how I created these, and this will also become an annual. So it's a little bit of a preview of the next annual, what you're getting here. If you have any questions during the session, as usual, put them in the chat, and we'll see what we can answer during the session, and what I can show you directly on screen. So don't hesitate if anything catches your fancy, something you want to know. Good, so let's have a look then. This is already pretty much the finished map I came up with. That's on the screen here. And the general idea was that I have a physical location, something like the shuttle here, that I also drew with Cosmographer, which I want to highlight computer systems in and showcase what's there, what can be accessed, or what the security levels are for different components of the system. And I want to do this as an overlay of the existing map, so basically that it matches not the style necessarily, but the location, and you can see what's where and what's what. No, I can directly add to that what I'm coming up with here should be no way be construed a map of an actual computer system or computer architecture. This is really only for gaming purposes and for convenient points that make sense in the story and not in a technical sense. So don't take this as any lesson in computer science and system architecture, what I'm doing today. Alright, so I don't want to redo the map I've done for this shuttle, so I'm going to start off with something new, and I've grabbed a map from one of the previous annuals, and I'll see what we can do there, so I can show you the whole process that we've done. I've got this exploration base from a previous annual about battle maps for science fiction settings. And this is convenient size and something that we can make a computer systems map for. And let's see how we want to start out with that. So first off, what I'm going to hide is the text and hyperlinks sheets here and the cartouches also, because that's stuff I don't want to work with at the moment and want to get out of the way. And what I really want in this map here is that they have the structure still visible, but softly in the background. So the first thing I'll do is I'll put something over this to hide it a little bit and perhaps give it a coloring so it looks a bit more like a digital readout, as I did with the red in the previous one. And so I'm gonna do this a little bit differently because I've come up with a better idea in the meantime. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go add a new sheet, and add a separator sheet, basically, that I can put on here. Or I can put something on that hides the stuff partially. I could work on the sheet effects as well, but let's try first with while keeping the sheet effects visible. And I'm also gonna create a new layer of the same name, so I've got everything properly organized. And then I'm gonna take a look at my fill styles, and I should have the useful solid or partially transparent fills in here that are included in most of the different styles. The other stuff is this is from Cosmographer, all the different bitmap fills from Cosmographer. So I'm going to take 30% opaque fill style, click OK, this is my current style, and I'm just gonna put this on top of everything else. With the on modifier F5, I'm grabbing the upper left corner and then the lower right corner. And what I've got wrong, you see, I had the line width set to not 0 but 0.5. That way you only have to get a very narrow outline with the fill. So let's just undo that and do a proper rectangle with 0 line width. Redo this. I could also have changed the properties of the entity I drew, but sometimes it's just simply quicker to just redo that. I'm taking a look here and I'm thinking perhaps it's still not opaque enough. It's just darkened a bit, so I'm thinking I'm gonna change the fill style prior to select the entity I've just drawn. Press D for do it, right click to select a different fill style, and I'm going to go with that's better. And now I also want to give the whole thing coloring. And for that, I'm going to do a simple trick. I'm going to add a colorize effect to the sheet I'm working on. And let's not go with the dark red I've used for the previous one, but instead perhaps go for something more matrix-like with a greenish tint. So I'm going to grab dark green color. I also already see the preview here in the background. I might make this a bit lighter perhaps. Oh, that's looking pretty good. Okay, and here's my nice system background for the map. That's always a useful thing if you want to build something new on an existing map and keep the stuff in the background. What you can also, of course, always do is just do a bitmap export and then import that export as a background in a completely new map. But if you're just adding a few sheets and layers, it can be useful to just put in a new sheet, we'll put in a separator, give that a little bit of opacity and a coloring, and you have a nice background for the rest of your map. Alright, so that's the first thing, and then the next thing is I want to add a grid overlay to this, just basically to give them more of a science fiction feeling or plan layout feeling, and what screams science fiction more than the good old hex grid. So I'm gonna do this also a dark green color, and then I'm gonna go on the grid sheet, and actually I should put the separator above the grid sheet here, so the grid is displayed on top of it. and then I'm gonna measure my map here for a moment, because I don't have in mind how large my map actually is. So it's just 100 feet wide, or 100 meters. Good to keep in mind. Draw hex or square overlay. I want to add a horizontal hex grid, and 10 foot to the grid. We might perhaps do a larger grid. Let's say 20. No labels. I want to set the snap grid. That is fine. So I'm just going to apply. Oop. And now something strange has happened. The command was just unceremoniously closed. Okay, so I'm going to run in a crash here. Not sure what happened there. Because some of the Cosmographer templates can be a bit tricky because of some grid issues they have. Perhaps I've run into an old map that has this issue. And I'm going to take a look and open my autosave drawing, see what I can rescue. And we can see we actually recovered the map just without crash positions, everyone. Combat crash alert, everybody on crash stations. So we go on here and save the map again. Where are we? More streams. New map. So let's take a look at the grids. I think I might just delete the existing ones to be sure, and then add a new one. I think it's a metric map we have here. Okay. So far so good. Let's take a look whether we have better luck this time. Save before we do it again. Hex grid. And I wanted to make the grid smaller anyway, because I was thinking the 20 meter grid was a bit too large. So I'm going to do 10 meters. Labels off. Apply. And are we good? Looks like we are good. Oh, the only thing we haven't done yet here is moving the grid sheet. Move down. And there we are. Good, good. So all recovered, all safe. Crash alert going down to yellow again from red. All right. Yeah, first as to the question for the other one, tell him why hex grids seem to be associated with war games and sci-fi, but not with fantasy maps. That guy think it goes to the early games, actually, and I'm not sure how the choice was done there, but for D&D they went with the square grid, and so that became very much associated with fantasy games. And it's probably older from conflict simulation games, war games that use hex grids. Hex grids have the advantage that they allow a little bit more realistic movement than square grids, because you have more equal distance options. And they were used in Traveller, for example, the first science fiction role-playing game. So that might be one of the causes that we have these associations today. But that's a total sidetrack. So let's get back to creating the map. So what do we need for the map? Basically, I do need symbols for showing for servers and computers, access points, and then stuff that shows lines, so connections between different systems. And let's start out with some displays of certain computers or servers or quadratic nodes, whatever you call them in the setting you have. So I'm thinking, since I've already got the hex grid here, I'm going to show some domain systems with hex symbols, and I'm going to start out by simply creating them straight on the map and perhaps then turn them into symbols later. So I want something a little bit darker than the, or lighter perhaps, no, a little bit darker than the hex grid we have on the map. I'm gonna create a new layer for this called Systems, and also a sheet called Systems. Move this up to a fill style of solid. And then I'm going to use the polygon tool, and if I right click that, I get the regular polygon tool, and I get to choose the number of sides of my regular polygon, and I want to keep the 6, so I just right click to accept the default. Then I'm going to choose the center for my system here, and just see, do I want to make it that large? Yeah, we're just going to put in, we want to put some readable text in, and so this is my systems. And why has it become so dark? Obviously because I've put it above or behind my separator sheet. So move the sheet down one, and there's our proper color again. Now I want to offset this a little bit from the background. I can actually give it a little bit of transparency. So let's make it 80% opaque. And I want to put a glow around it. So also with a light green. Let's say, well, strength is fine, just with the 1 unit blur radius. Let's have a look. Could be a bit larger. Yeah, I think that's fine for our systems node. And perhaps even a little bit larger. There we go. I could also add a darker inside glow, or perhaps. Let's put this up. If you move sheets around, sheet effects, their order can be important, because if I do the glow first and then the transparency, it will not apply the transparency effect on the glow as well, and that way it now appears brighter. That's why if I move for comparison, if I move the glow down, apply, it appears darker. Let's keep it this way. Oh, I wanted to add a bit of an inside glow with a dark green. And this can be softer. It's too dark. Oh, actually I should move this up. Apply. There. Yep. Happy with that. Okay, so now I know the properties of my object, and I can use, actually I already have them, I don't need to use extract to set the current settings. And for further purposes, so I can quickly use this without setting up the tools again, I'm gonna set up a drawing tool for that. So I'm gonna go in here. I'm in your sci-fi floor plans style. I'm gonna keep the style and just add it here for the moment. I can always copy them out later and put them into another style, their own. So just for convenience, I'm keeping them in the same style here. So I'm creating a new tool. System node is what I call this tool, and here I want a straight polygon. I can't do regular polygons without using macros. I think we can only do rectangles on squares from the drawing tools, but that's fine. We can always use the hex grid to draw our hexes. And I don't need to restrict this as the map border. Front only on layer is fine. Touch mode is good. And we're gonna set the properties, both the layer and the sheet to systems. And what I'm actually gonna do, I could of course put in the color we've used for our setting here. No, I didn't want to use the current properties and use the 100 I think we used for the color of the system node. But instead I'm just gonna do it as the current color. That way it's quicker and easier to just do system maps in different colors. And perhaps I want to just show some special node in a special color. That's easy if the drawing tool is on varicolor. Okay, I think I've kicked quite a discussion with the about hexes and squares in games. Yeah, of course, D&D has also used hex grids quite a lot for overland maps, for good old hex crawl. Good. So we do have what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to show my text for a moment. You can see I have the command and living quarters here. So I'm going to say this is my command node. So that's the central system with the most important stuff. And I can now also going to add some additional ones, perhaps in smaller sizes. I can also create a symbol from this if I want to, but for now I think I'm just gonna copy this. That's probably the easiest thing. So I'm gonna grab this hex, do it. Center point is fine. And now I want to make this a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna hold down Control, move the system, and gonna add the node this way, and then I'm gonna grab this again. So this is, I'm gonna do the main nodes basically in the hex form. So these will be servers and systems that run a lot of stuff, are important for controlling everything. So I've got the main one command stuff, then one for the laboratory, and I'm gonna add one for the technical area here. So that's pretty good. And then I'm thinking do some as circles for more general low-level control and access of functions, like the life support for the oxygen food production and the power operating. So I'm gonna grab the circle tool. Still got all the different styles property set as to the same stuff, and I'm gonna just add a circle here and then copy that. Add one here. Oops, one for the hangar and entrances here. and one for the living quarters. And then I'm thinking I'm gonna add some like treasure vaults, so databases or data vaults, where the most important all the data is stored. And if you want to access that, you have to hack through the systems to get there. And for that, I'm just going to grab the rectangle tool and add these basically beneath the systems that have access to them. One here and one for, oh, those two will be fine. One for the lab data and one for the general data storage for the core system. That's looking good. Now I do need some connections for these, and for that I'm gonna simply do on the same. Do we want to keep this on the same? Yes, so it will all be one pattern together. All the same sheet effects will be applied to the background there. So I'm gonna put in say 2.5 width line width, and then I'm just going to use the path tool and connect the main system to the tools here. No, there was 1, 2. I wanted to start there. And since I'm all the same sheet with the same colors and everything, I don't need to worry about the overlap or anything. As soon as I apply the sheet effects again, you'll see that they're all connected together. Here, onto the laboratory. Here, connection down to the data storage in here, and the connection to this database. Now what I'm going to do is thinking that I'm a bit close to the map border down here, so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to move everything a little bit. And just move, scale, rotate, and then select everything on the layer systems. Everything we've drawn so far, do it. And just move it a little bit up and to the right. And there's my general system layer out. Now I've just got the basic stuff down. And of course, I do need some gaming information or informations like what security areas are in, and ways to depict all those little bits that we need for our game. So first off, I'm going to highlight the protection level of certain systems, and I do this with another hex pattern, but with basically an outline. So I'm going to grab the white color for that. I'm going to put it on a new sheet because I want to overlay that over everything else. Call that security. Sorry. And it's in the right location above the systems, but still below the grid. I can later decide whether I want the grid rather behind all that stuff. We'll see how it looks in the end. And also create a new layer for that. Add security. See, the 0.5 line width is the line of drawn of these things. Start with. It's far too much if I want to outline the shapes with a certain pattern, so I'm going to reduce that to just 1. And let's give it a try. Or again, let's grab the regular polygon tool, number of nodes 6. And now I want to put it in the center of this X here. Of course, because I've set up my grid already and only use that for drawing, I could just simply use the grid. But in case you've not used the grid or anything, I can also show you how to put something into the exact center of an existing shape. This is the center modifier, and that's down here. And it's also the F6 shortcut, and then click the edge of the entity. Oh, no. Okay. Did I misremember? Not. Let's have a look. Sorry. F6 is intersection of F4 is actually the center. So let's correct this. F4. I should really know that. Oh, and now I'm with a circle again, which I didn't want to. I want to just use the regular polygon. F4. And now we are on the correct place. See, now I'm a bit limited by the grid. As you can see, I can only put it right on the corner, but I wanted to make it a little bit smaller. But I can only simply turn snap off for now. But if I want to keep my corner aligned with the direction here, I can turn on ortho. On that way, I'll have it go right straight up. So this it's going to be my security level, but I think it's a bit too much still, and I'm gonna apply a line style to that. So let's have a look. Let's use change line style. Select by prior, do it, right click, and then we do have a variety of line styles here. Good opportunity to show you line styles, and we've got several predefined ones. We can also create completely new ones, but I'm just gonna use an existing one, the dash, but I'm gonna edit it because we do have the different the pattern here. First off, is the pattern length is the overall length of one intersection, one repeating pattern in our map, and let's say 5 units. And then I want just a simple dash skip pattern, so 50-50 lines drawn. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete one section, and then I do need to replace this with 0.5. So yeah, so the sections add up to 1, because 1 is the overall section, which will be 5 units in length, and this tells us it draws the first half of that section and then skips the next half. I don't want to scale to fit ends. I just want to keep the scaling. Draw first section, basically that just would say that we would skip first instead of draw first if I uncheck that. And the important is that you don't turn on or paper scale or turn it off. It is already turned off. Otherwise, the pattern length will vary with your zoom level. So look, and there we are. And I find perhaps the pattern is a bit too large. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the extract to get to our line style again, the dash, and I'm going to make that a 3-unit pattern length. And that looks good. I like that. So that shows me that we do have a firewall on the system that is specifically protected. I can put in a key in later that tells me exactly what that says, but for now it's just my knowledge that this has a special firewall. And I'm also gonna add a sheet effect to that, and for the same inside glow, or actually the same color, but make it outside as I have on the background. So I'm gonna copy this effect, go to my security, no, not add, but paste it, and then I'm just gonna switch from inside to outside. And now we have a little dark glow around the white pattern. It's looking good. So this will be my main system setting, and I'm gonna do the same on the other important systems. Regular polygon. Or actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up a drawing tool for that as well. So I'm gonna go in here, have a look for my systems, T tools, there's my systems node, new system, firewall, let's call it firewall A in case we want a different depicted firewalls as well. And so this goes on my security sheet and also on the security system security layer. I'm not going to use the current color for this. I want this to always be white. And I wanted to use a fixed width of 1. Okay, problem is we can't see the white background in our preview on white. I can show you a bit how to circumvent that in a second. But otherwise the tool is fine, so let's just save it, cancel for the moment. And if you were working with a lot of white drawing tools, they can be hard to see on the white background. It's also if you're using white symbols. What you can then do is simply change the view window color. And for example, use a gray for that. There we are. Now you see the white screen on the map, but that's fine. And now if we go into the drawing tools, that will be depicted on the dark gray. And you can now see our firewall. System node. Oh, actually. What I've done there, I haven't set the width correctly. I did want to have this to be a solid always, so I do need to set it to a fixed width of 0. That way the nodes will always be drawn as a solid fill. So I'm on my firewall A, and I perhaps want to do a smaller one, not quite as important, not quite as secure. And for that I'm gonna go into this and make it a little bit narrower, just 0.5. And for example, I could use this to put it on one of the other systems. Again, this will be a bit harder to do with the on the hex grid here, is drawing it smaller than the existing shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna do the draw it around the corner of our shape here. And now I'm first time running into another issue. That's because I've got my background showing there. If I want to use the on modifiers and stuff, I can easily hit the stuff behind or everything else. What I'm going to do at this point, I'm just going to simply hide most of the stuff that is below my separator sheet and just leave the background showing. So I know it's there and safely in the background, but it won't interfere with my drawing for the moment. So I'm going to use the on modifiers, or can even use trace here if I want to. And there we are. And then scale this a little bit. So I'm going to do non-visual scale, prior, do it, and let's do it by 0.8. And for the scale center, I'm going to grab the center of my hex grid here. There we are. And now what I forget to set for my tool is the line style, but I did want to make this smaller anyway. So I'm gonna here my dash, and I'm gonna do a new one this time, and I call it dash B. I know the pattern length I had was 3. These were unchecked, and I'm gonna replace that. And then insert after for half drawn, half skipped. But I want to make the pattern length actually shorter here to make it smaller dots. So I'm just gonna, let's do half of that, 1.5 pattern length. And now we're gonna change the line style again of this polygon to -B. And there's our smaller setting. And I should also change that accordingly in our firewall. Here the A should be the line style dash. And the firewall B is our line style -B. Now I'm going to simply grab the hex we've drawn and copy it from the center of this hex into the center of this hex. Then I'm going to use the tool again to draw an outline. Oh, no, I didn't really hit that. Let's try again. I should be using the on modifier, not the center modifier. There we go. That's better. Scale this again. On visual scale. Prior. Do it by factor 0.8. And the center of this rectangle. There we are. So this is going to be secured. Just going to grab this again. From the center of this rectangle through the center of this rectangle. So there we do have some security highlights for our specific nodes with the outlines already set up. And now we can do some other stuff. We could put in some extra security measures. Let's say we do have barriers set up, special access gates to get from one system to another. So for example, the security might have an extra entrance requirements. So I'm gonna stay on the security sheet and layer, but I'm gonna change the line style back to solid, and let's go for line width of 1. Yeah, let's have a look. And I want to make basically just a 90-degree break here on or sign on the line. For that I'm just going to use the line tool. Click on here on the side, and then I want to make it to 90 degrees to the other line, and for that we do have another snap tool, the perpendicular one. Grab the tool, and this way we are sure that we are doing a exactly perpendicular line to the one we've chosen. Okay, So then I think the power generation is probably also fairly important. So I'm gonna grab the tool again, just click here, use the perpendicular tool, put in a gate there. Then I'm thinking perhaps also the power generation should have its own firewall, increase security settings inside. So I'm just going to use extract properties again, and then use the circle tool to put this on this node. There we are. Then I'm next up, we can of course put more information. We could put extra points for terminals, for example, in show how many terminals or where terminals actually are to access certain systems. Yeah, let's do that. For that, we're just going to put in with a normal line style, just white dots. We're going to leave it on the same sheet because we can apply the same sheet effects, but I'm going to add my own new layer called access points for that. And then I'm just going to put a small white point in there. Could be a bit smaller. And copy that. Let's have a look. If this is our living quarters, these will probably have simple access points for people to access their normal, basically the internet and all the convenient public information, like communications and stuff that the inhabitants need. The laboratory will of course have its own access point with terminals and everything. The databases themselves not. They are only accessible through the systems themselves. Then we probably have a maintenance access system for the power generation. Technical storage, perhaps not really its own thing. Orchard and food production will also probably only be controlled via the main system, and then one access at the front door basically to call in and that. And then we can start on have a look at labeling things. So that's we do have our text sheet and layer already, obviously. So what I'm gonna do for now is I'm gonna have a look on the sheet effects. Or first off, let's change the color for text. I think the black doesn't suit this style very well. So we're gonna change it to white. Change color. I want to get all the text on the map. For that, easiest to go by entity type to read text. Press D for do it and make it color white. Then of course we do need to change the white outline because that doesn't really help here now. I'm on the text sheet and change the outer glow simply to a dark green color instead. Looks good. And perhaps I want to use a different font. I find this, if I want to put in some smaller labels for game information, perhaps a little bit hard to read. So let's have a look what we are using here. We're using SF square root as the font. So I'm going to use change text properties on prior. So all the stuff I have selected before. Press D for do it. And I'm going to use the same font I used for my other systems map. I don't remember the name. That's Orbitron. There we are. I think that's a quite nice futuristic looking text that is still fairly readable. Yeah, looking good. And since we are basically reusing locations from our existing map, we can use simply reuse most of them and move those in perhaps a little bit better location. No, I'm gonna keep it to the side, not put it in the center of the nodes, but to do that it's better to align it so I can actually put it properly on the side here. So what I'm going to do is going to change text properties here, do it, and instead of mid-center it should be right center, right actually, that way. There we go. Move it to there. This one I can leave like that, put it down on the bottom right. This down below. Gonna keep the laboratory up on top. And here we've separated stuff a little bit, so we're gonna make this just entrance. This is gonna be just command. And perhaps I'll put this right in the center of the node. And then one more, use extract properties to set everything to the same properties as the text we already have. And then I'm going to call this living quarters. But probably there we are. Okay, I'm just seeing I might have overlooked this for a while. Sorry about that. Versus asks how I can make my custom drawing tools show up in the overview. I'm not quite sure what you mean in the overview. If you mean the catalog window here, you will need to put the drawing tool in the catalog as a symbol. So if you go into the symbol manager, you can use the import drawing tools button to import all the drawing tools from a certain into the catalog. But Sue tells me that it's already been discussed in the chat quite a lot, so I'll probably not have to go into the details, and that's good because that would take a little bit of time. So I'm seeing I will want to move the entrance around here a little bit. Then I can go in and I want to label my databases here as well, which have no direct physical counterpart on the map. So base data is going to be this one, top, and this other one is going to be research data. Make it multi-line and align it on the right. Put it here. Good. The title is a bit too large, overlapping stuff. I'm just going to go in and scale this down a bit. And I'm going to rename this as the subtitle as base system map. Yeah, the chat will always be available on the video, so no worries about that. In the version that gets archived on YouTube will always include the chat. It can be a bit awkward to find, but it should always be there. I'm going to delete this part here because that's just the hyperlink stuff for linking to other maps, which I'm not going to keep around here. And I'm also going to erase the scale bar. Next up, I would go in and add game information. It's text game info, new layer, but I'm going to keep it on the other on the text sheets. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. Let's try with 1.2. And so I would then go in. That depends, of course, very much on the game system you're using or the purpose of the map. Call this high sec +2 difficulty. Make it short diff. Top center, or mid center. Put this in here, could even be a little bit smaller. What I often do when I'm scaling text is I'm going in, scaling it visually, then using extract properties to have a look what size I've hit. So see, this is almost exactly 1. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set my default size for this type of text to 1. And just to make sure that my current text is exactly the same, I'm going to change properties again. Touch the 1 here once, because this is set to change only touched items. In the text editing, text properties window, want to see any real difference because that change was so small. But now I know all the small game text I'm placing is at size 1. And then let's put in here security. Let's call this access code alpha. Telling people that to get into this through this node without hacking, you have to have this access code. And another one down here, access code beta. To this, then I would go in and say here this is med security, medium security +1 difficulty. And continue placing my game information like this around the map. More thinking that my connection levels are perhaps a bit too wide for my taste, so I'm going to have a look here. So let's see, this is the 2.5 width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose change line width. I'm going to select all my connections here. Deselect the grid, which I have accidentally selected. Do it and set this to 1.5 instead. Yeah, well, I think that looks better. Not quite as wide the lines. And I can of course go in here and add lots more of flourishes. Might want to outline my nodes, for example. Let's quickly do that as the last thing, and I could add that later to my drawing tools. So I'm gonna choose I'm gonna do the outline tool. Okay, got the notice that contrary to what I thought is that the chat vanishes when I edit the video. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so I would then need to leave the waiting time at the start. Okay, good point. I didn't actually know that. I thought the chat was sticking around even with the editing. Well, I'm gonna have a look how to handle that better. Thanks for the pointer. And I want to outline all my notes, but not the security stuff. That's looking good. Do it. And now I'm going to change properties. Prior. Do it. And I'm going to make that a darker green. And not as white. Just line width 0.5 perhaps. Fill style solid. Okay. And we should probably put that on its own sheet. So I'm gonna move to sheet, prior, do it, and I'm gonna add a new one, call that systems outline. Move it up just below the systems sheet. Click OK. And there, that gives this notes a little bit more stand out, like that. Looking good. All right, and there we are. We've done our hour of mapping. We've come up with basically a new style. Of course, it does need a little bit more elaborate stuff, symbols, to just simply grab the nodes from the symbol catalog, put them on the map, best with text attributes that let you put in game information right from the start, and so on. And from here, you can create then your own stuff. Oh, what I forgot is we actually should show all the sheets again now. And then we do have a little bit of the map in the background. All right, thanks for watching, and hope you liked tonight's session. It was a lot of custom work, coming up with new stuff. I hope that was useful, how to create your drawing tools and design an extra layer on top of everything else. And see you again next week. Have a good one, and then have a good evening or day or whatever lies ahead of you in your part of the world. Bye bye.